This is the photocopy of the Modern Language Quarterly, and it's from 1940. And this is very important thing to Robert Jones. It has the a song in Robert Jones' own handwriting, and he, the author, lists the works of Jones, and you can see the third book is listed as 1608, so it has that mistake, and that mistake goes on and on. So this is 1940. I think they discovered that it was actually published in 1605 in 1937. March 24th, talking about Robert Jones' third book, which was his Ultim Vale, meaning that this was going to be his last book. But what he meant by this is that it was going to be his last book of lute airs. But it wasn't his last book of that lute music, lute songs. I guess his ambition was to go on and write madrigals. So in 1607, he published a book of madrigals. What I have is Strainer and Bell's Robert Jones' third book edition with modern notation. So this was published in Robert Jones's book, published in modern notation in 1926. So this is the 100th anniversary of Strainer and Bell's publication of Robert Jones' third book. Now, they didn't know the date of this book. You can see 1608 on the fellow's copy here, and it wasn't 1608, it was 1605. So that's what caused a lot of problems in thinking about Robert Jones, because they didn't understand that this book came before the Madrigal book. So writers thought, since it came after the Madrigal book, writers thought it was maybe a little bit strange, because they thought 1608 he was writing this book, and just 1 year later, 1609, he was making this musical dream, and later the Garden of Delight. Very creative topics and creative language. In later years, they found another copy of the book that put the book's initial publication at 1605. As you can see from this 1926 edition, the Strainer and Bell's modern notation of the book, they published that it was 1608. And then later, another copy of the book was found with a cover that was better intact, and they could read that it was really 1605. It makes the story of Robert Jones' publications easier to understand if we understand this book was published in 1605, because he was saying, this is my last book. And the writers get it all mixed up, because they thought he was funny, and his very expressive to the reader notes in the book of 1609. He tries to challenge his critics and things and say, well, this is another book. His fourth book, The Musical Dream, came 4 years after his final book. So in between that was the Madrigal book. And then later came the fifth book, which was a Garden of Delight. It's very creative. He had a great imagination. And it's kind of clear what the real story is that he published the first book in 1600, second book in 1601, and then his last book, so he said, in 1605. And it seems his ambition was to quit writing lute songs, but to write madrigals. And he went on in 1607, he published a book of madrigals. And so that's pretty logical, last book, and then go on to something else, going on to publishing madrigals. What it seems to me is that he wasn't very successful. Perhaps, I'm guessing, that his madrigal book was not very successful. We don't have a complete copy of this madrigal book. We have it with parts missing, and people have taken what they had and taken what people copied and put together pretty much of this book. So to me, perhaps this madrigal book was not very successful. And not being successful, he went on to doing what was successful, which was writing lute songs, what people wanted him to do. So he followed it with a fourth book and a fifth book. And that's the story. So the story is that he wrote 3 books of lute airs, and then he kind of quit that and he started writing madrigals. He wrote 1 book of madrigals, and it might be a second book, we don't know, but it probably wasn't a second book. And so after that, he wrote his books. He went on writing more books of airs, and he was maybe a little bit embarrassed that he said he'd finished. So he did go on to explain, well, I had quit, but I had a musical dream, and it came to him that he wrote more lute songs, which was his 4th book. And he even went on to write a 5th book. And we're happy he did. Yeah, this is the Fellows, Strainer and Bell publication of 1926. This is a 100-year anniversary of that book. So I am celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the 3rd book of Robert Jones being published in modern notation. He finished doing lute songs and he went into madrigals. And what I think is that his madrigal book was not very successful. There's a new round of excitement around 1607. There's a new bunch of madrigal books written. So it wasn't until John Willoughby's set of madrigals in 1609, and then Gibbon's first set in 1612, and then Litchfield's set of madrigals in 1613, and also John Ward in the same year, 1613. But I don't think his book was very successful because there's only 1 copy that survives this madrigal book, and it's only in pieces. So it's like there's parts, like there's the tenor part and no bass part, for example. I'll have to look up exactly what it is. So he went on, so it wasn't his last book, but he went on to do a 4th book and a 5th book, and it's all very logical. And even though he said it was his last book, he did go on. I guess these books were popular. Okay, it's only the cantus and the bassus that survive from the printed edition of the book. 1607, Book of Madrigals. But luckily, in Brussels, a manuscript from Brussels. They found that people had copied from the book. So from that copy, they're able to reconstruct the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 13th, and 14th, and 22nd songs of the book. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 songs. Plus, in another manuscript, they found 2 more. And then with the cantus and the bass, Dr. Fellows was able to reconstruct the first 6 songs, because that's enough information to guess what the other part, there's maybe only 1 more part. So Thurston Dart or Edmund Fallows was able to reconstruct the first 6. So we have, of the 26 madrigals in the book, 11 cannot be reconstructed. Also, this book, as with the third book of lute airs. Many of the songs are from the poetical rhapsody. So Francis Davison is the author of many of these poems or ditties. Another add-on from March 24th. Okay, this is just an add-on for March 27, 2026. Okay, that's about enough for today. Here are some of my photocopies of the 1924 printing of the modern notation of Robert Jones' Book of Madrigals and the preferences. Here's a preference, and it says it was printed, of course, in 1607, and only the cantus and bass parts survive. So from the whole book, they only have the two parts, and they found in Brussels, the Brussels manuscript, they're able to complete 9 of the madrigals, and the first, I guess, the first 6 were a little bit on the easy side, so that as Dr. Fallows or Thurston Dart, they're able to reconstruct these first 6, but the other madrigals, maybe 2 of them also were found somewhere. So half of these madrigals, we cannot get an accurate picture of what they were. So madrigal book, I guess people take the parts away, but perhaps the book was not that successful, and Robert Jones did not go on to do a second book of madrigals. I think I'm going to do this book. I'm going to do it's going to be part 1. So I think this is part 1, and I'll do part 2. I don't know if I'll do part 3. We'll see how it goes. And so I have this publication in with piano music, and these days a lot of people go back to the original tablature, and they can read that and they understand that. I don't do tablature, I do by notations, and I haven't played any. I've been trying a few of these songs. I write out the guitar chords. I don't think I've ever done a recording of any of the songs in this book. Later in the book, the music gets pretty complicated with duets. Maybe is that what they say? With duets? Yes. The first part is for the lute, the voice, ultram vale. In Latin for last work, I guess. Ultram vale, with a triplicity of music, whereof the first part is for the lute, the voice, and the viol da gambo. The second part is for the lute, the viol, and 4 parts to sing. The third part is for 2 trebles to sing, either to the lute or the viol, or to both, if anyone please, any way you please. Composed by Robert Jones. That's why I think it's okay to make Robert Jones songs without authentic instruments. So I just play whatever I play when I record. But I haven't recorded any of these songs. Maybe I will soon. But there's a lot of these songs that have never been out, never been recorded, are never out. And this is the 26th of March for a little add-on here. Lots of my photocopies here. Now this is my copy of the third book. Now in most universities in Canada, in Ottawa, they had the Jones first book. It was in the library, but they didn't have the second, third, or fourth, or fifth book. So I looked all over Canadian universities. It wasn't until I got to the Calgary, is that the University of Alberta or the University of Calgary, that they had all 5 books of airs of Robert Jones. So this is the contents, and you can see it was published in 1926, 100-year anniversary of this notation, modern notation, so people like me can read the music. And this has a mistake, 1608. So because of that mistake, people had some misunderstandings about Robert Jones. So here is photocopies that I say I got from the University of Calgary. It's a very rare thing. It was a rare book, not in many schools, and the contents and maybe somebody thinks it could be the first song, maybe a Thomas Campian poem, maybe, and then other songs were done by other people. William Coughlin did this Beauty Sat Bathing, and the lyrics by Anthony Munday, and most of these, he took a lot of these songs. They come from, he took the ditty, the lyrics, they called them ditties. A lot of these came from a poetic rhapsody from 1602. Jones just took a lot of his lyrics from there. And of course you have Blame Not My Cheeks from Campian, and the other song, Right Together, two Campian songs together. There's a garden in her face, and I think Thomas Campian did not do this song until about 10 years after Jones had published this, but the other, Blame Not My Cheeks, comes from the 1600 book of Rosetter and Campion book. So he set two ditties by Thomas Campion together. For practice, this is it's John Dowland, died 400 years ago, so everybody's doing John Dowland. This is my contribution. This is just a practice. Away with these self-loving lads. Last song in the first book. Away with these self-loving lads, who Cupid's arrow never glad. Away with souls that sigh and weep in love of them that lie in sleep. For Cupid is a meadow god, and fortheth none to kiss the rod. For Cupid is a meadow god, and fortheth none to kiss the rod. My songs they be of Cynthia's praise. I wear a ring on holiday. On every tree I write her name, and every day I read the same. Where honor Cupid's rival is, their miracle a scene of his. Where honor Cupid's rival is, their miracles are seen of him. Okay, this is just a practice, because I think this is mono, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, this is from Robert Jones' third book, Thinkest Thou Kate, air number 12. Think thou Kate to put me down with a no or with a frown, since love holds my heart in bands. I must do, I must do, I must do what love commands. I must do, I must do, I must do what love commands. Okay, that's a third take of that.